During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
Since the day he launched his first presidential campaign back in 2015, Donald Trump's policies have boiled down to those two words, America first. A decade later, the Trump administration's mantra remains the same, identify and rectify policies they see as benefiting other nations over the US. Sean Spicer, who served as Donald Trump's press secretary at the start of his first term, told me nothing coming from the Oval Office over the last few hours should come as a shock, because President Trump is a man who does what he says he's going to do.
It's kind of funny, but it is rare that you see a politician actually doing exactly what they said they would do. I don't think anyone should be surprised by that. He was very clear on the campaign trail about making, the border and fixing our broken immigration system, getting the woke culture out of our country. And he followed through on that and more, energy, etc. I mean, a lot of issues, all following through, all on day one.
Taking back the Panama Canal and renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America brought cheers from the crowd at the ceremony, while an American mission to Mars had one onlooker very excited. But it was the trade moves that have Irish authorities most on edge.
I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service.
President Trump has said he'll impose 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada from February 1st. No mention yet of Europe, but as a candidate, he promised sweeping measures, with potentially up to 20% being charged on imports. Speaking from the World Economic Forum in Switzerland this morning, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said the EU will take a pragmatic approach with the new US administration, with a lot at stake.
Our first priority will be to engage early, discuss common interests, and be ready to negotiate.
Donald Trump's commitment to prevent other countries, those who he sees as taking advantage of the US, may completely rewrite trade relationships around the world, with Ireland uniquely exposed. Team Trump has already taken aim at our lucrative hosting of huge US multinationals, with his nominee for Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick saying this.
We left Americans out in the cold while country after country of this world took us to the cleaners and made money off of us. And that is going to end today.
I caught up with CNN special correspondent Donie earlier, who told me the threat of tariffs could very well be a negotiating tactic from President Trump, as opposed to the wide-ranging tariffs he has promised on nations around the world.
I think he's going to get a lot of pressure from people not to go as far on this tariff issue as he's been saying, but also equally there's a lot of pressure here in the United States from workers and other companies here who want to try and bring tariffs in as a way to support manufacturing and other jobs in this country. So I think it's really hard to predict how that is all going to play out. Like many things that Trump does, of course, including talking about trying to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal, he puts a lot out there. A lot of it, sounds very extreme. A lot of it is very extreme. But sometimes it is a negotiating tactic where he says the kind of the worst option as a way to get people to negotiate. So that also may be some of what is happening with the tariffs here. But as you say, some of course already being implemented.
Unlike in 2017, when governments worldwide were somewhat blindsided by President Trump's aggressive trade actions, leaders have been hunkering down to fend off any potential economic shockwaves that they could bring. The government here released a statement saying it very much looks forward to cooperating with him in the months and years ahead. Outgoing Taoiseach Simon Harris included a line referring to our two nations' growing and mutually beneficial economic relationship. However, President Trump could argue that that relationship isn't mutual at all. Ireland's exports to the US hit a total of €67.4 billion in the year to October 2024, with imports at €20.8 billion. That leaves a surplus of €46 billion and makes Germany the only country in Europe with a higher trade surplus with the US.
If the deal right now, whether it's Ireland or anywhere else, isn't a fair one in his mind, one that respects market access both ways, then I think he's going to fight for that. And obviously, he has made it very clear that tariffs are going to be a major tool in that fight.
Away from the threat of tariffs, outgoing President Joe Biden used his farewell address last week to warn an oligarchy of extreme wealth, power and influence is taking shape in America, adding there's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a few ultra-wealthy people. Yesterday's ceremony had some of the world's most prominent tech billionaires sitting amongst the Trump family and members of President Trump's cabinet. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, who will soon lead Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, has taken an active interest in European elections. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has called on the US to help fight what he calls censorship by the EU, while the heads of Apple, Google and Amazon were all there, all of whom are key employers in Ireland. Sean Spicer says their close relationship with President Trump is solely transactional.
I don't trust them for as far as I can throw them. They know that Donald Trump won overwhelmingly. They went way far left with woke DEI ideological policies in their companies. But I think they woke up not just to recognizing that Donald Trump's in charge, but that the ideas that he campaigned on won massive support from the American people. And so right now, I think they're doing a big U-turn. But from my standpoint, I don't trust them. I think that these guys are just doing it because they have to.
President Trump's brush with death last year has fueled his supporters to elevate him from political leader to a man they believe is protected by God. His second coming could well prove more consequential than his first.